What up, everybody? We're
Yo, yo,
live,
yo.
Chicago Sports Podcast. I'm here with Darius Lockhart. How you doing, Darius?
All is well. All is well. Welcome to the Chicago Sports Podcast.
Yeah, welcome everybody. We already got Cliff in here. Ant Mess, what up, guys? Bear down. They're loyal. They're always here. Keep the comments coming tonight. They'll help us, move the conversation forward. Anything you guys have or want to talk about, we'll be more than happy to jump in and discuss it. Bruce Pham in here too, so here to drink some beers and talk Bears and have fun doing it. So let's get to it, Darius.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let's get to it. Bear down, all the people in the chat. What's going on?
Bear down. Thank you very much for being here again. We want to start by talking about these Bears camp position battles. And we keep hearing that same saying, iron sharpens iron, right? Or competition breeds success. We're going to be looking at certain positions but position battles that might be intriguing to you, Darius, or to me, or to all of us. Talk about how those things, happening throughout this offseason could really make this team very competitive going into the regular season.
Yes, indeed.
So I guess we'll just start with, man, what position battle, whether it be, a DB versus a receiver or in that DB room or that receiver room or wherever it is, intrigues you the most right now and you feel like is the most important?
Well, I think you have an idea, and I think the rest of Bears Nation has an idea of where I'm going to go with this. I'm a trenches guy, baby. I think the competition in the trenches will be intriguing, because to some people those are the weakest areas of our team. So, like you said, iron sharpens iron. I think it starts there, because if we're going to go where we want to go, it has to start there. I mean, we got the quarterback, we got the weapons, we got those guys in the secondary. We're even good in the second level with the linebackers. But if we're no good in the trenches, we're not going to be no good on the field.
Okay, so specifically then with the trenches, who are you looking at? What competition are you looking at there?
I'm looking at three technique. I'm looking at three technique versus the interior offensive line, centers, and those two guards right there. I'm also looking on the other side of the edge with our fellow rookie, Booker.
Austin Booker, yeah.
Yeah, and over there with our second year tackle with Wright.
Okay.
Going up against maybe Montez Sweat or whoever that's gonna line up in front of him. All across the line, really, because that's where we need to be our best. I think everything will take care of itself when it comes down to Caleb and the receivers. But if we're going to really be able to bludgeon teams, for lack of a better term, we have to get busy in those trenches, because I love the running back room. I mean, it's people with complaints over there, but I love the running back room. And if we can open up holes for them guys, we'll really be able to get busy.
Yeah, man. And I mean, Cliff said it earlier, the competition is good for the players and it's going to make players on both sides better if you're talking about the trenches, right? On the one side, you got that interior offensive line with some combination of Bates, Davis, Jenkins, or Shelton, right?
Shelton, yeah.
And then you got Gervon Dexter, Pickens, going at them on the other side. And it's a group of guys on both sides that we want to see get better. Those are a couple of the biggest question marks on this team, on this roster. And if Gervon Dexter is beating the crap out of these guys in practice, hopefully that does two things. That builds his confidence, right? And that makes them better on the offensive line. Right. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's been a lot of talk about how Gervon has gotten his body together and how he's really ready to prove people wrong, prove the naysayers wrong this upcoming season. Like you said.
Yeah.
If he comes into camp terrorizing like he should, then that's a good thing. But like you said again, if he's doing too much,
part of that defense.
If he's doing too much, that means we got questions on the other side.
Yeah, for sure. I mean? But to a point, right? Because if you always hear about the 85 Bears and how those defense and offense went at each other.
Yeah.
And when it came time to play a game, it was just like this shit was cake
Right.
compared to playing against each other in practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if Gervon Dexter is taking that next step and becomes one of those top 5 to 10 3 techniques in the NFL, then it might make sense that those guys are getting beat by him more often than not. But now they can start to, plan for his counter moves, which is going to make it easier when they play the Vikings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who's lining up for cross from them. So it can cut both ways for sure. But,
yeah,
obviously that is the biggest concern there, that center position and that guard position with Nate Davis. I mean, I'm not worried about Tevin Jenkins besides health, obviously. And that's a big worry.
That's a big worry.
Big worry. Yeah. But if he stays healthy, he's going to be good, But if Bates and Shelton and Davis are going up against the wreaking havoc Gervon Dexter, I can see that making them better.
But, not just Gervon, though. I have a dream scenario here, man. You remember how Lovey used to rotate Tank Johnson and Tommy Harris?
Mm-hmm.
And then they never lost a beat. And then on the edge, we rotated Anderson with Alex. And we were still as dangerous as we would if we had the top starters in. That's a dream scenario for me because we drafted 2 D linemen last year. That's Dexter and Pickens.
Oh yeah.
So we can, and then I love Billings, as our run stopper. I love him, and if we can just rotate those 2 guys in and be just as effective, I would love that.
No doubt. That team had a lot more depth than this current Bears roster does right now at that defensive line. So obviously, depth is a friend when you're talking about a rotation. That's your best friend, right? And Track says Tevin's going to make Gervon better and vice versa, and I agree with that. I would just say, is there a guy out there that you could see adding to this defensive line that's going to make that competition a little more spicy? Is there somebody out there you want the Bears to target to impact that depth that we're talking about at that defensive line?
I wouldn't mind bringing back Yannick. I wouldn't mind bringing him back.
I would.
Anyone else, unless we're going to get a guy, get a dog from another team,
like in a trade
with Sweat. I would love that better because we have the capital. But for the right price in Ngakoue, I'd love to bring it back. I mean, of course, in a rotational setting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're not depending on he can play the Mark Anderson,
Yeah, maybe in limited reps and
right
within that rotation, he could be a little fresher and find the fountain of youth, back to his Colts days.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're not going to get things twisted. We are in a passing league. Like the NFC North is a passing conference now. Hate it or love it. I mean, it's the NFL is a passing league, and the NFC North is finally, indoctrinated themselves into it.
So you got to get after the quarterback, is what you're saying, and a big factor in that, in terms of that depth, is Montez Sweat staying healthy, because if he goes down, then we don't have very many options behind him.
Health is always health will forever be a concern.
Yeah, no doubt, and I mean, but Sweat in particular, though, because we don't have the depth behind. We don't have somebody behind him that can impact this defense the way that he can. If he's in there, it's gonna make an Austin Booker better, right? It's gonna make DeMarcus better in terms of being able to have less attention on him and being able to get after that quarterback with a little less stress. I would say that matchup with Booker and Wright, that you brought that up, that's pretty intriguing. I want to see that in training camp. See how Austin Booker stacks up against what I think is going to be one of the top 5 right tackles in the league.
Yeah, most definitely. And to move, I know we talked a lot about him. We weren't very nice when we mentioned him, but Mr. Davis, man, I was watching film on him the other day, and he's a mauler, man, when he's in there. You know what I mean? And if we have some sense of security that he's going to be active and going to be a part of this thing of ours, and be there on a regular basis without, being in and out of the lineup with injuries or whatever he has going on in his personal life, I think we have a formidable lineup. But yeah, those matchups on the edges on both sides are going to be very intriguing.
Cliff Victoria says, and this can't not be mentioned in this conversation, talking about the defensive line. Eric Washington, being a defensive line coach, cutting his teeth there, being our new defensive coordinator, he should help everyone on the D line, right? The coaching is going to matter in that situation.
Yeah.
Hopefully he brings out the best in some of these guys that we have question marks on. And I just really want to mention that because that's a very good point, Cliff, that he's going to make a huge impact on this defensive line this year.
True indeed.
True indeed. And I also just want to say in regards to Nate Davis, man, I don't have faith in him. I don't. And again, there's the human aspect of it, and I don't want to get that twisted with the professional aspect of it. But when those things intertwine, it still comes down to your performance, and us being fans, we want to see the best possible players on the field. So if there's competition at that guard position, that right guard position, and Nate Davis is not there to compete, then why should he earn a spot to be your starting right guard? If you got, Bates performing there and Shelton's performing at the center, or, even an Amagaji, if he steps up this year, if I want to see competition there, because I don't want this guy to just be given a spot and then we see more of what we saw last year. I want to see him earn it. That's what I want to see.
And him earning it will ultimately make him a better player.
Yeah, so, no doubt.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, nothing is given. Like they gave him the contract and they gave him the spot last year, and he, it didn't work out the way we would want it to. So yeah, he has to come in behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, and he's got to, and if he wants to play, and if the personal stuff is to the point where he can't focus on this game, then I totally understand that. Do what you got to do. But if you're going to step out on the football field and play for the Chicago Bears, the greatest franchise in the NFL, and a team that we have playoff aspirations for, we need to see you out there competing and performing. That's just the bottom line, regardless of anything else. Just like when you go to your job, you got those personal distractions. We all got them, and and some are more extreme than others. But we got to put that stuff aside and get to work when it's time to get to work.
And if we can't get if we get to the point where we we can't handle them, then we stay on.
Yeah, and we got to communicate those things too. So I really think it is on Nate Davis to change the perception of him from Chicago, from the Chicago fan base this year. And I don't feel bad about saying that, because that's part of the gig, right? That's what he signed up to do. And so I hope the best for him, because it only means good things for the Bears if he's playing well.
Yep.
So moving on with some other stuff, we talked about the trenches. I feel like we all know that that's going to be the most important thing, but I think the most fun thing to watch in terms of a competition in this off season going into the regular season is going to be in this wide receiver room, man. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch, right? That race to 1,000 yards between these three receivers. Rome Odunze might not even really be in that conversation if you're talking about comparing him to Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, two established number one receivers in the NFL. But the fact that he's throwing his hat in that ring, that's exciting. We could have 3 number one receivers this year, and they all are going to be competing with each other to get those touches, to get the reps, and to get the yards and make the impact. So in terms of that, who do you see as standing out in a race between Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze?
I still like DJ.
Yeah.
Because I think out of the 3, I think he's the most versatile. And he's, as far as like, we don't know about Rome, but as far as availability, we can count on DJ. He's Mr. Reliable in my book.
Yeah.
Rome will be interesting because I think those guys will really open up the field for him, because those guys already have a reputation, and when you look into scouting reports, you're definitely going to see those 2 names. So Rome had the field open up for him. Hopefully he can take advantage You know, things are all well and fine when you in shorts and shirts, but when it's time to put those pads on, it's a whole nother ball game. But I think that's a good problem to have.
Hell yeah, it is. Hell yeah, it is, because Keenan Allen is just adding him. I think we went into this offseason assuming we were going to draft a receiver, right? Like at least I did, and a lot of people I was talking to, right? We were looking at that number 9 spot as a place to get a really impactful number 2 receiver. We were hoping for that number 2 guy to put on the other side of DJ Moore, and then out of nowhere we get Keenan Allen for a 4th round pick, and that changes the game entirely. And then they still draft that receiver. So we have a glutton of weapons right now at that position. And I think the competition between those guys within that room is going to be strong. I think the bond between them is going to be strong, but they're going to be trying to get the best of one another. Yeah. They're going to be watching those targets game to game, right? And saying, I got DJ Moore's going to be like, I got 2 touchdowns today, Keenan. You didn't get none. and that type of conversation and competition is going to be boosting the level of play amongst all 3. And yeah, it's a very valid point, Darius, when it comes to Rome, because he's going to be, I don't think a top 10 drafted receiver anytime recently that I can think of is going to see as many open opportunities as Rome Odunze is about to see. He's just got to capitalize on them.
Yeah, I'm very excited about us in the red zone as well, because in the past, our red zone, we'll make a spectacular play to get all the way in the red zone, and it seems like when we got to the red zone, we ran out of plays.
Or players to make them.
Yeah. Right? We usually always end up with the field goal. I think things are going to change tremendously on that in that aspect. I think we're going to get a lot more touchdowns and field goals in the red zone this season. And plus, because of our the 2 tight ends we have, we can't leave those guys out. There's always talk about those receivers, but those tight ends, they're going to eat as well.
Is there a competition there between those 2?
It should be a healthy one, because both are great. They both run great routes. They both can be threats in the play action game. In the red zone, Cole got that big body; he can go up and get it. So yeah, like in the red zone time, it should be healthy competition for everybody. Everybody should score.
I would like to see Gerald Everett push Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet has another level to reach. I don't know that he has like we saw with Laporta last year, like a baby Gronk level or even a Gronk level. I don't know if he has that, but he definitely has another level to go to for sure. And if a guy like Gerald Everett is in there, and he's been in the league a while, Gerald Everett, maybe he's going to give him some tips, but he's also going to, potentially take some targets from him. And if that pushes Cole to work that much harder to make those plays, then it's going to make a big difference in him taking that leap to that next level for him. It looked like in your eyes you had some disagreement with me when I said.
Well, no. It's when you mention Laporta, because people like to mention him, and he's a great young player. He had a spectacular season last season. But if you think about the Lions' offense, the ball was only going to 1 receiver.
Yeah, I'm Ross St. Brown, but Laporta still had to make the plays. He made
no doubt. And see, that's where I was going. Now, Laporta still made the plays, but he didn't have the situation that we have here. Those other guys in Detroit, as far as their receiver room is concerned, they're gonna be satisfied when they get the ball, because they know Amon-Ra is going to be targeted 14 times a game, and then the rest going to Laporta. You know what I mean? Now, here, this ball going to have to be spread around through 4 or 5 other people.
Cole Kmet's definitely not going to get the amount of opportunity.
Right.
Now, what I'm going to say, though, is when Cole Kmet catches the ball, that's where I think the next level is for him. You see a guy like George Kittle, you see a guy like Laporta. They make people miss after the catch, and they beat people to the edge after the catch. They beat those linebackers. that's that next level for Cole Kmet. Does he become a playmaker when he gets the ball in his hands? Because when he does get those limited opportunities, like you're saying, with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and Rome Odunze on the outside there, like when he does get them, he's got to make the most of them. And that's going to mean making some people miss, making some plays. So that's that next level for him in my mind.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you're 1,000% on, man. You're 1,000% on. I agree with you.
That. So Cliff says here real quick, just while we're talking about the receivers, it's going to be hard to keep Keenan if he has a good year. He sees the Niners as an ideal landing spot for him. I don't know how I don't know. I don't want to speculate on all that, but I do agree with the fact that if Keenan does play his ass off and has a great year and stays healthy, that contract's going to be a tough one to make an offer on for the Bears when you still got DJ Moore to lock up.
Hey, look, that's why you had a conversation early. Hey, Keenan, how interested are you in coming back? You know what I mean? You just have it early just to get a feel. And if he plays well enough to price himself off of us, but it's not like he left the cupboard bare.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, we were able to build on ideally, he would have helped Caleb Williams grow. Rome Odunze learns from him, and he's stepping up into that role. I mean, that's the whole point of the draft and how they did that. So they have that, and if you're making that contract offer to Keenan Allen early, that's a double-edged sword too, because if he gets injured, now you're now you gave that bag to him, and he ain't gonna be performing for you.
Like I said, I didn't say offer the contract. I just said have a conversation.
Yeah, for sure. But that conversation is going to end with how much money you give, how much money you willing to pay to stay here.
But at least we know early. They give us time to prepare throughout the season. You know what I'm saying? To try to figure out another way.
I agree 100%.
A lot of this stuff is always better early than late. Because once it gets late, then you're in a position where you feel like you have to.
For sure.
Then cutting the cord on that situation, it's a lot worse.
Yeah, and you got that franchise tag stuff. It just becomes you kind of end up chasing after it with some bad money potentially.
Yeah.
So getting in front of it, always, no doubt. But again, I think there's a little bit of wait and see on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bears, because the Bears want to see Keenan perform and stay healthy, and Keenan wants to see what if this Bears organization is changing and producing towards becoming a winning franchise. Ant Mass asked the question here: who do we have that is responsible for covering Sam Laporta, Detroit's tight end? What do you think about that, Darius?
Who do we have?
Yeah,
you don't know who we have.
I mean, T.J. Edwards and T.J. Edwards and Edmonds. I mean, those guys are.
That linebacker core our linebacker core is insane.
Thanks for the question, Ant Mass. And that was my first thought too, right? T.J. Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, those guys are fast. They're great in coverage.
Yeah,
and they can hang with them. I'm trying to remember, but I don't remember Sam Laporta, doing a lot against this Bears defense in those games. Did he have?
Honestly, Detroit didn't make a whole lot of plays against us, man.
Yeah.
We lost those games. We lost that game last year, due to
some turnovers, mistakes, self-inflicted wounds, no doubt.
Yeah.
But no, I think those are a couple of linebackers. I wouldn't want Sanborn covering them, but I think between Edwards and Edmonds, you can do a pretty good. And then if you got Brisker over the top, you bracket him. I think there's Kyler Gordon you can put on him.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears have a lot of options to cover a guy like Sam Laporta, and I think that can make it tough on him.
Speaking of Brisker, you mentioned him. How do you feel about him?
I think he's a thumper. I love seeing him at the line of scrimmage when we're stacking the box. I get really scared when I see him in coverage. To be honest, he's not very good in coverage. He has a tendency to get beat. He has a tendency to make mistakes and gamble. And I haven't really seen a lot of it pay off yet. Now another off season underneath them, and adding a guy like Byard who's seen a lot in the NFL to talk with him and kind of coach him up on some stuff. I mean, that could make a difference. I like Brisker. He's a freak physically, and I love when he puts a hit on somebody. I need to see him improve his coverage game, man.
I love when he hits somebody too, but the bad thing about that, he tends to always knock himself out the game.
He throws everything he has into that,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And like you said, you mentioned a great point. Kevin Byard and just the overall confidence of the other guys in the secondary should really raise his game. If I have any, well, not necessarily issue, but if I have any concerns on the defensive back end, it would be Brisker for me because of the things we just named. He leaves a lot of interceptions out there too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's got kind of bricks for hands. He's got to clap those things together, man. Again, you want to accentuate what he's good at. You got to be aware though of what he is bad at to game plan that defense. I think if you're really gonna be smart with it, you can get a little versatile with those lineups. You bring Brisker down and you drop Gordon back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Leave Brisker in that box to limit the screen game, to limit the run game, and to really limit those sweeps. And then you got Gordon back there kind of dropping from that nickel into that coverage safety position, depending on, what you're expecting from the offense. But there's, with the versatility the Bears have in their defensive backfield, they can get a lot done.
Yeah, I wonder what our blitz game gonna look like. I'm intrigued with that.
I want to see Brisker blitzing a lot more.
Yeah. He's very good. He's very good at that.
He's a heat-seeking
He was
missile.
good at that at Penn State. He excelled with that in Penn State. I watched when they played Wisconsin one year, and he made the game-winning interception off the line. He was actually blitzing, and the quarterback threw the ball. He jumped and got the interception.
Yeah, man. He's an athletic freak, and there's a lot of potential still there. So there's not a lot of competition for him, and I don't think there should be. He should be your starting safety. That should be the expectation. And
I think he should have a little.
Yeah, but where's it going to come from? When you draft a guy in the second round that performs as well as he has, at some point you could hurt his confidence bringing in somebody too good to compete with him.
And don't get me wrong, like I'm talking here, but I think he's a good player. I just want a little more from him, because he's very vocal, like on Twitter and with the media. He's very vocal about things. I just want his play to match his mouth, because I love the talking. I love the confidence that he has, but we just need a little bit more from him. That's all.
Yeah, for sure, and that's a valid point. I mean, he's got the confidence. He needs to back it up with more plays being made. I mean, again, though, I think the Bears can do a lot to accentuate his strengths with how they deploy him. At some point, you got to stop trying to make a guy. He can't be. I don't know that he can be a cover 2 safety, dropping back into that zone and covering that area for you consistently, because that's going to lose you some games. If he's not getting better in coverage, he's going to get beat over the top. He's going to miss some assignments. We got to see him get better. We've got to see him get better at that. He does have to back up his work.
I think he loses himself trying to be the hero sometimes. I mean, because in that cover 2 system, it's all about you have an area, you have a responsibility. If you deviate from your responsibility, there's going to be a big hole in the middle of the field, when you're safety or whatever.
Yeah.
So, as long as he's not trying to be, Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, or whoever, and he just, he just remains the safety and do his job, I think everything will be good. It's all about discipline at the end of the day.
Ant Mass, what up? Brisk is going to have less pressure to do everything now that Byard is here, kind of, echoing on what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Jackson was only looking for interceptions. I mean, and he was looking to not tackle anybody too. He was looking to get out of the way when somebody came his way.
I used to hate to see a screen coming, because I knew Eddie was going to make the what they used to call it, the professional decision, and just dive.
Yeah. He was not looking for contact. We know that. I mean, I think Byard is a guy that's going to really help this Bears defense. I mean, now he was disappointing in Philly, man. Let's just be real. When he got traded from the Titans to Philly, that was when that defense was in a tailspin and they never came out of it. I mean, now maybe that was just part of going to a toxic environment. They were changing defensive coordinators middle of the season.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
They got Desai to Patricia. Those were two. Desai was awful here.
Yeah,
as the Bears D coordinator, he wasn't no better in Philly, and Matt Patricia is gonna get every job in the NFL apparently until they figure out what he can do. He can't do shit. Why does he keep getting coordinator position? He was an offensive coordinator, head coach, defense. What qualifies him to do any of this shit?
Yeah, well, he must got something on somebody, man.
Bill Belichick, something, but
yeah, that Philly situation for Bayer was a toxic environment, man. And then bringing him over, expecting him to fix things because they had as much talent as they had up front. They had trouble up there. Guys were getting through there. Guys were like Saquon Barkley. They had a time against Philly, man.
Yeah. So I mean, you want to chalk that up to his poor. I thought that was a huge move, honestly, when it happened, because it was right when the Eagles were like 9-0 at that point when they made that trade, or 9-1, something like that. And then everything kind of went downhill. I thought he would be a game changer for them and really put them over the top. And like I said, they just tailspin. So you hope it was just just product of the environment. He's coming here starting fresh, and he's going to perform like he did in Tennessee when I think didn't he lead the league in interceptions once or twice down there?
Yeah, he was a massive playmaker for the Titans. But I think the Titans had a more stabilized unit too. Everybody played their role pretty well and they understood their responsibilities. Philly, that was a bad situation going into that.
No doubt. And I think this Bears, there's a lot of stability in this. I think this defensive backfield, as much as I love our receivers, I think this defensive backfield might be the best in football, man. And that's not. I'm not like a Bears truther or anything. I'm not a biased dude in that way. I'm looking at Jalen Johnson, who just got the bag. Looking at Tyree Stevenson, who I think could be better than Jalen Johnson here pretty soon. Kyler Gordon taking another step. Brisker and Byard, man. I mean, Terrell Smith. I mean, we have some players, and adding Owens to all this. I mean, there's just a lot of depth and a lot of talent in this defensive backfield. I'm curious what everybody watching thinks, but I think they could be a top 3 defensive backfield in the NFL, and I think competition within that group is gonna be scary for the NFL, because if Tyree Stevenson and Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson put money down on who's gonna have the most interceptions this year, you might see them having a lot of fun out there this year. What do you think?
Well, let's not just limit it to interceptions. This is all around playmaking. That's what that position is about. The secondary is about. It's about making plays when the ball is in the air. I don't want to limit things to interceptions. Of course, interceptions are great because you take the ball away, but there's also other ways of taking the ball away. We can cut them. We can cut them down if we tackle them on third down before the first down marker. We can get the strip. But if we lay the hammer on, they'll fumble. Just making plays all around. Pass deflections. You name it. It's just all about making plays in the secondary. I don't want those guys to go crazy over interceptions because that's how you get yourself out of position sometimes.
Very true. Now, I mean, obviously playing within the defense, but if I was an NFL cornerback and I was in a room like that, that's what I would put my money on, though. That's all I'm saying. But obviously, you got to do your job. You got to stay in position. You got to make that tackle on 3rd and 9. All those things. But I'm just really excited to see these guys compete, to see who's the best in that room. Because I think that like I said, I think Tyreek Stevenson is about to take a huge leap this year. I mean, I was super excited when they drafted him. He played better than I expected him to this past year.
He definitely got better as the season went on. He got better,
and that's, in my opinion, that's the toughest position to transition from college to the pros in, man. Like the cornerback position, that's a tough one. The speed changes. You're dealing with veteran route runners that start putting it on you, you know, and
Yeah.
it's a really tough transition to make. And I thought, you know, it was rough at first, but he made that transition really well. And I could see him becoming a top 10 cornerback in this league.
Yeah, another year under his belt. He gains a little bit more discipline because he was a little grabby at times. But that was just all about, you know, like I said before, trying to make a play and getting knocked out of, you know, the correct position. You know what I'm saying? He had a lot of penalties called on him early on. But I think what's gonna help us a lot more is the schedule. Because we're not playing a whole lot of top tier quarterbacks either. We're playing against a bunch of young guys that's just coming into the NFL. So I mean that helped us a lot last year. A lot of people they gloss over that because our defense started to really turn on when we played against bad quarterbacks.
That's a very
now
solid
listen,
point.
true enough, we play who we play. You know, because it's still in all, the defense didn't have to make those plays, but plays were made. You know?
Yeah. No, for sure. And I mean, like you said, you can only play who's on the schedule. What I do think is that those reps and that experience, regardless of who it was against, is going to transfer over to this year. Just like, you know, I've made this point with the offensive line. You got 4 out of the 5 starters coming back from last year to this year. I think that makes a huge difference. And you got 4 out of 5 starters in that defensive backfield when you're in that nickel defense coming back this year from last year. You know, Byard's a veteran, so the stability that you were talking about earlier, that's happening within this Bears defensive backfield room this year.
Continuity, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta have it.
And so I think that's going to be a fun thing to watch, and not just the Bears cornerbacks against the Bears cornerbacks or the Bears receivers against the Bears receivers, but those two going against each other in practice. Mm-hmm. You know, Jalen Johnson against Keenan Allen. You know, Tyree Stevenson against DJ Moore, Kyler Gordon against Rome Odunze, or whatever. However they line it up, you know what I'm saying? Like there's gonna, you know, Swift going at Brisker. Like these guys, I haven't felt this way in a while, to where it's like, I see the potential on the offense and the potential on the defense, to where in practice, I feel like these guys are going to make each other better.
And hopefully it makes the games easier. I hope practice is a lot tougher than the football games.
We do have a comment from Cheryl. Bush just hit a home run with 1-0 and 2 outs in bottom of the 6th. Cubs are up 2-1. Then Trax comes up and says the Giants just tied it 2-2. Yeah. Hang in there, Cubs. They're having a rough stretch, but we're not here to talk Cubs.
Nah.
One competition that I did want to bring up that is a little out of the box. And before I do that, actually, sorry. Again, I'm new to this hosting thing, man. Just shout out to our sponsors, right? We got Bridges Scoreboard in Griffith, Indiana. I've been there a few times. Food's great. Beer's cold. Service is awesome. River Street Tavern. Those guys are great. I've been there a few times. Kyle works there. He's a great bartender, guys. Go over there, tip your bartender, get some good cocktails and some good food. TC's World of Wonders for all your sporting good needs. Get yourself some jerseys. Trax is constantly plugging them because they do a great job. Just want to make sure that our sponsors get some love, and we can move on to what I was going to talk about, which was, Trax says it right here. Hit that like button and subscribe, please. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Cliff is always a rock star in our chat. Ant Mass, KCL. KCL's a new one I haven't seen, but thank you for being in here, my man. So a competition, there's no competition at the quarterback position. Caleb Williams doesn't have someone to compete with. You know, that Bajan is not competition for him. We know Caleb Williams is the number one guy. And we know he is our franchise quarterback, you know, fingers crossed for the next 10 years or more, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Caleb has to find that motivation somewhere. And I was reading it earlier. You know, he wants that Tom Brady record. You know, he wants to break the 7 Super Bowl record. He's putting that out there. He's got the 8-time Super Bowl on his phone in his background. And Tom Brady's not discouraging it, man. He's like, you know, whatever you got to do to motivate yourself, you know, and reach for the stars in terms of setting your goals.
Right.
I'm looking at it like it's Caleb versus history. Caleb is setting some very lofty goals for himself. Now, do you think that those goals are too lofty and that's overconfidence, or do you love that from a quarterback who's like, I'm competing against the greatest of all time? In his mind, that's what he's doing, and he's creating that competition within his own head, setting his own goals. Do you think it's overconfidence, or do you love that confidence?
I love it. I love it because you shoot for the moon. If you don't hit the moon, you still amongst the stars, right?
Yeah.
So okay, he's shooting for these records. If he doesn't get the record, does it mean that he's not a good quarterback or a great quarterback?
No, right? Not necessarily, right?
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It doesn't mean that he's still not great. But if he's shooting for these numbers and getting close, he still has motivation. Is motivation still there? You know what I mean? So, because to be great in the NFL or any professional setting, or really in anything, you have to find something that keeps you motivated. That was the thing about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan always found something, the smallest thing, to get him going. When he did on days when he couldn't find a reason to go out here and play, he found the smallest thing to motivate him to get him going. And I think it's the same thing for Caleb. If Caleb is looking at Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady, he understands that he has a long way to go. And those guys, there's nothing about those guys that's mediocre. As much as we all hate Rodgers, we all have to admit, nothing about him is mediocre. So if those are the ghosts that he's chasing, so be it. Because you have to have that playing this position, especially in Chicago.
Yeah, no doubt. And we haven't seen it in Chicago. We haven't seen that type of quarterback in Chicago. So having a quarterback that's, aspiring to reach those levels, that should be exciting to everyone. We should be encouraging it, no doubt. And Caleb Williams finding that motivation within himself is what we need to see from him and what he needs in order to reach those heights of success. Because like you said, if he's shooting for, greatest of all time, what's to say, like, what's failing in that? Trevor Lawrence,
right?
That's not a bad landing spot. But at the end of the day, he wants to be, mentioned with Tom Brady and Joe Montana, and I've never heard a quarterback say that. I don't think that we've had a quarterback that's come in here and said, I want to be the next Michael Jordan of this city. It's just basically where he's coming from. So I think that's super exciting. And like you said, you love to see that confidence and moxie from your franchise quarterback.
Yeah, because we've seen what the other stuff looks like. We've seen what the humble and just glad to be here. We seen what that looks like,
and where it gets us.
And we didn't draft Caleb to be that. We didn't draft Caleb for that. Of course, we drafted him to be a great quarterback, but it's just certain traits that comes with greatness and confidence, and being cocky is one of them.
Yeah, and you mentioned Aaron Rodgers, and he's got that in spades. That's why he fell in the draft in the first place.
Yeah,
because people thought he was overconfident and cocky. The Niners passed on him. I know that for sure because Mike Nolan thought he was cocky, and that was a huge mistake. They took Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers. That was you want a guy to have that confidence that's about to be standing in that pocket making those plays.
It has to, because it's just gonna be certain days, certain Sundays, it's just not gonna go right, man. It's gonna be certain practices that's just not gonna go right. It's not gonna go in his favor. So you need that confidence. Just because you make a mistake, because some people, like we've seen, some guys throw interceptions and walk off the field with their head down, snatching their chin strap off, putting their head down, going to grab the tablet. Those days are over, man.
And that interception lives in their head. On the next play. and then they're afraid to make the next throw. Like you said, we need a quarterback that's not afraid to make the throw that needs to be made to win the game.
Yeah, we didn't draft Caleb for just his physical abilities, man.
That's a very good point. His mental capacity, his processing ability, and his confidence in himself. Those are things that aren't going to be coached. Those are just things that you have it or you don't have it. As far as I'm concerned, you've seen that in the NFL. Either a guy believes in himself or he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And once that doubt creeps in to somebody who don't believe in themselves,
So
you see where it gets you.
over.
Yeah.
It's over.
So we've talked a lot about the Bears here, man. You got anything across the sporting world that stuck out to you recently? I know it's kind of a dead time across the board, but anything that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
I've been, I'm a huge basketball fan.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad Dallas finally got a win. I don't know if they're gonna get one tonight,
They
but
were getting whooped. They were getting whooped, man. When I came in here to jump on with you, man,
uh-huh.
Jason Tatum was going off.
Yeah,
Jason Tatum was going off, and they were up by about 13. I have not checked the score since we've been on.
yeah, that's not a whole lot in the NBA, but I respect Boston a great deal. I love Jason Tatum and Luka Doncic. They both great players. Tatum gets a lot of slack for whatever reason. And they started dumping on Luka for his defense, but Luka been playing the same type of defense he's played his whole career, and it's got him pretty far. But other than that, it has this whole thing with the WNBA as well, with the ladies of the WNBA. They don't like all the physicality that's happened to Caitlyn, but it's a part of growing pains. I think it's gonna make her a better player.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've seen that throughout history with it happened to Jordan. He
Yeah,
had to get beat up by the Pistons and realize I got to get stronger to
yeah.
get better. You can't cry about it. You got to get better. With the Celtics, Mavericks, man, Celtics are up 82-64 right now.
Yeah.
Jason
So
Tatum is balling out, and like Jason Tatum, he gets a lot of slack, but he gets a lot of flack too, man. That guy,
yeah,
he's if you look at some of his playoff stats, they're not really comparable to anyone else his age. The amount of success that he's had in the
right.
NBA playoffs, man. So like he's not flashy, so
Nah,
it's tough. But that Celtics team is really freaking good.
absolutely.
And I think they're about to close it out tonight. I wanted the Mavericks to make it a series. I thought the Celtics would win, but yeah, Luka's been a lot of fun to watch in these playoffs, but one guy can only do so much against a really good team that's prepared every night, man.
Yeah, as a fan of the game, I just didn't want the season to be over.
Yeah, because now the season's done and we'll be moving on. Um, I mean, Lad McConkey. I don't know if you saw this. The Chargers rookie wide receiver, signed the largest deal for any player drafted number 34 overall with the Chargers. He signed a 4-year deal worth $10 million guaranteed.
Times are definitely a changing, huh?
Yeah, man. But now here's my question. Here's my question, though. Again, before we get out of here, and Cliff, thank you very much. Caleb has the confidence to be a star. It's not cockiness if you can back it up. That's what we're saying. We're 100% on board with you on that, Cliff. But here's my question: as a rookie, as a second-round pick, what if he? Everyone's talking about what a pro Lad McConkey's been since he got there. Like he's been in the league. Justin Herbert keeps raving about this guy. What if he balls out for the next 4 years and they got him on a $10 million deal?
Yeah.
For over a 4-year period, he's going to be
Hey,
the most underpaid guy in the league.
well, I
That's
mean,
smart.
I mean, hey, look, he just signed the paperwork. I love his agent. I think he's gonna get his agent. I think he's gonna get his agent a lot more clients.
Yeah,
But
for
I've
sure. I
watched.
mean, you in the NFL, you want that guarantee because you never know
Yeah,
when that next play that's going to happen that could take you out for your career. So the guaranteed money is important, but hopefully he's not selling himself short. Because after 3 years he could be signing a look at these receivers contracts, man. You're
right,
looking at 90 million guaranteed. That's
right.
going to Calvin Ridley. Like
Mm-hmm.
if Lad McConkey balls out, he might be selling himself short on 1 year of football. But I just thought that was interesting. And then I had one question for you before we get out of here. Is there a rookie wide receiver out there that you, or just a rookie offensive player in general that you think is kind of sneaky in terms of what performance you're going to see from them this year? Could be anybody out there.
Um, Let me go back on Lad for a second.
Okay.
I've watched Lad because I live here in Atlanta. I've watched Lad terrorize the SEC for the last 3 years for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lad has tore apart the conference and he doesn't get the fanfare. Like if Lad was 6'3", 6'4", ran a 4.4, 4.3, he'd be the top receiver in the country.
Or if he was on the Patriots,
Right?
That little white guy receiver.
But I said that to say this: he is my guy, though. What you asked me, he's the guy under the radar that I think is going to make a lot of plays because he's a player. I wouldn't have mind seeing him in the Bears uniform if things turned in a different way. But I'm happy for him, and it's good that the Chargers have showed him that they want him to be a guy. Because when you pay a guy, you're letting them know that you want him to be a part of whatever's going to happen on this team.
And they certainly
I think every young player, especially a rookie, needs that reassurance or that security.
Yeah, and they certainly need somebody to step up at that wide receiver position.
Yeah, because they got plenty of room.
Taking it back to the Bears, right? We got Keenan Allen off of them for a 4th-round pick, and Mike Williams went to the Jets, so they don't have a lot in that receiver room. Ladd McConkey could be in for 100 targets this season, so that's a good pick. And Cliff Victoria says it's not like $10 million is peanuts. LOL, these salaries are insane. Now, I mean, it is in comparison to what these wide receivers are getting paid, but you know, good for Ladd. Yeah, I think that, like you said, them making that deal before the season even starts and guaranteeing it, and making him the highest paid, high 2nd-round pick that's ever been in the NFL. That should lead to some good vibes, and they do need somebody to step up at that receiver position. So
it's nothing like a team showing that they want you. Or they're glad they're glad that you are around. And sometimes you got to show with that paper, man. You got to show with that bag.
Well, in the NFL, that's the only way to show it, man. Like, these guys are pros, man. They need to get paid. I like Roman Wilson on the Steelers. I thought that was a hell of a pick for them. I think he's a crafty guy in terms of route running, and I think with a Russell Wilson, you could see, you know, maybe some deep ball activity unlocked that you did not see at Michigan with JJ McCarthy. So I think, and you know, they just traded Deontay Johnson, you know, to the Panthers. So that opens up 80 targets right there for a rookie who again, kind of similar to Ladd McConkey, has been kind of a pro's pro already throughout his college career, you know, gotten a lot of reps, been professional, shows up, just makes the plays and goes back to the huddle, man. So I think Roman Wilson could have a pretty big impact early on in his NFL career with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Another guy though, well, we all know what the team he's on, Xavier Worthy.
Oh yeah. I've said this before. I think he would have been a reach for any other team, but for, like you said, for the team he's on with the quarterback he has and that skill set that he brings, they can really dial some stuff up for him. They can specialize a game plan to his talents and really bring it out of him. So I think, that's a guy that I would be looking at maybe as a top 5 rookie receiver this year in terms of his production.
It's definitely room for him. Room for him. You got a guy in Kelsey that can garner that much attention, man.
Yeah, and then you got the guy they've been missing, that guy that can beat you over the top. So they're trying to, you know, replace that Tyreek Hill role with Worthy, and you know, it's hard for me to doubt that it's going to work, you know, being that it's the Chiefs.
Yeah, and another guy, as long as we talking at Ricky Pearsall,
49ers.
Yeah, they're already talking how they're gonna open it up for him. Shoot, they trying to get rid of one of their guys so it'll open up.
Yeah, man, Ayuk was already on social media talking to Jaden Daniels, saying the 49ers told him they don't want him back. So I mean, like, those contract talks are not going well. They definitely drafted Pearsall for insurance. You know, you might be seeing a trade here of Ayuk, but even if both those receivers stay, Pearsall can get his in that offense.
Yeah. Hey, you know, Ayuk and Pearsall was at Arizona State with Daniels.
Yeah. So Ayuk was FaceTiming with Jaden Daniels. You know, he put it on his IG and said, you know, I think he's trying to get himself to Washington, man.
Hey, man.
Go play with his boy.
I don't blame him. You do what you got to do.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to get paid. Ayuk is going to get paid by somebody. The Niners just drafted a receiver. It's kind of the similar situation to what the Bears are in, right? You just drafted a receiver, so paying Keenan Allen, in terms of everybody else you got to pay, and we've talked about the positions of weakness, the defensive end, the center. The money you got to allocate to all these positions. It's tough to pay 2-3 wide receivers. That number one receiver money, man.
Yeah, it's a little tough on the Niners because Ayuk is kind of like entering his prime.
Yeah.
For us, Keenan is on the down end. Regardless of what numbers he put up, that age, in the NFL, he's an old man.
And his health concerns for sure. Ayuk just had his best season of his career.
Right.
He's been kind of middling, to be honest. I'm a Niners fan. I watch him. I root for him. I love the Niners. Ayuk has been underperforming for a couple of years. He just went off. So I don't blame him for trying to get paid. I could see Pearsall, replacing him and him moving on the way it's going right now. It looks like the Niners will try to trade him and get something out of him rather than let him walk for nothing.
And hey, man, listen. In this day and time, in these days and times in sports, it's very rare that you have guys staying in one place for a long period of time. It's just so many other factors that motivate these players to either leave or or stay for that matter. But it's just for a guy to really be committed to one organization for over 5, 6, 7 years is really it's really anomaly now.
Yeah, and the organization needs to do its part for that. It's a mutual relationship. If the organization ain't showing the guy that they want him, it's a business. At the end of the day, these guys got to get paid.
It's up to the organization to handle business.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get all as much as you hate it. You can't get all nostalgic and bank on this guy to love y'all more than he love anybody else because this is the only place he's known. And as far as the other side, you can't overpay at a particular position, especially if it's going to hurt the rest of the guys on the team. You have to prioritize those situations.
Yeah. And we'll end it on Cliff Victoria. He's commenting on what we're talking about here. If the Niners would offer Keenan money like they're offering, he had brought it up earlier, Keenan Allen going to the Niners to be closer to home. He says if the Niners would offer Keenan money like they're offering Ayuk, he might take it. I'd rather have Keenan. That's an interesting take. I mean, if it was me right now, I'd probably rather have Ayuk, just like you said, because he's going into his prime. He's a younger player. He doesn't have all the injury concerns. I mean, if you're talking about for 1 year, maybe. But if you're talking about for a 4-year deal, I'm taking Ayuk every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Darius. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man.
Thanks to Cliff. Thanks to Ant Mass. Thanks to Cheryl with all the updates on the Cubs game. She says Giants lead 3-2 during the 7th inning stretch. Jay Grizz just showed up. Bear down, bud. You guys have been awesome tonight. Thank you for all the comments. That keeps the show going. Really appreciate it. Darius, great job tonight, man.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. Hey, it's nice to work with you tonight. This is the first time. Hopefully, got many more. Shout out to the chat. Y'all are always great. Shout out to Tracks. Shout out to all the guys a part of Chicago Sports Podcast. And after on that, we out.
Bear down, guys.
Bear down.
Thanks, Cliff. You guys have a good night.